So Tanzania, major supplier of cashew nuts, harvest September through to December. Looking at where do cashews grow. So most of the industry has been, over the years, centered in this part of the country, in the southeast, where factories, warehouses, cooperatives, and most of the trees were. This has expanded and is expanding, and much of the country is suitable for planting of cashew trees. So we are seeing an increase in the number of trees planted. The crop has been growing. The crop has been growing at about 5% per annum over the last 10 years. There have been dips. Production can be volatile. Inputs particularly have an impact on outturns at farm level in Tanzania, and we've seen some negative impacts of that. There have been a lot of changes to the system. We have seen different methods for processors buying from local cooperatives, although that's getting more complex now than it was in the past. And we will see the auction expected to kick off. I think it's the 11th of October, certainly mid-October, we're going to see the first auctions. And it will be intriguing to see what happens. And, as usual at this time of year, we see a lot of people talking the prices up. That's a little bit self-serving and probably doesn't actually meet with the reality. Crop forecast for this year. So you can get conservative crop forecasts. Some people talking around 350,000 tons. Probably more widely, people are talking big crops. The highest estimate is remarkably over 500,000 tons, but definitely all indicators are of a very good crop. James can tell us a bit more about that, I hope. So it looks to me as if Tanzania is about to enter a fast growth stage, new trees, better inputs distribution, government support, and new processors. Coastal Nuts is one of the early ones of those. It does look positive. And lots of news from Tanzania. So we're seeing stories. For example, the auction will go online this year on the Tanzanian exchange. This will be interesting to see what impact that has on the market. We see that there are plans to build an industrial park in Mtwara, a cashew industrial park, to encourage processing. We saw recently that a large container vessel called at Mtwara. That is a game changer. If you can export the raw cashew nuts directly onto ocean-going container vessels, that definitely changed the cost and it changes the availability of product. And of course, we're seeing the changes in the method of operation of the system. So the payment system is changing. Not sure how that's going to work, but the payment system is changing. A lot of positive news coming from Tanzania in recent months. But let's go to someone who's there on the ground, so to speak, in Mtwara, James Mulhall of Coastal Nuts. Good afternoon, James. All good. You?
Good afternoon to you too. Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Glad to hear. James, I'm going to talk to you about cashews. Would you like to introduce Coastal Nuts a little before I do that? Anything to add to what I've been saying?
No, we're a relatively small company. We're on our second full year of production now, and we're trying to grow our business. It's an interesting journey so far, I suppose.
Well, I'd say a couple of things about Coastal Nuts. Coastal Nuts is one of those companies that was a slow burner. They took their time. They did their homework. They took a long period to do this job properly. Within the first 2 years, they have got their BRC certification. The factory has been up and running. It's never easy starting a cashew factory, but they've done it. I have seen a lot of cashew nuts in my time, and I'll tell you, these cashew nuts these guys are producing are some of the best I've ever seen. But James, let's talk about the situation and the crop. We've heard from the board, we've heard from a few stakeholders, optimism on the crop. What's your own feeling? Are you seeing these forecasts of a very good crop?
Yes, I suppose I'll give it all with the caveat that the positive weather conditions are sustained during the harvest. But to date, the weather has helped greatly in producing a large quantity or an expected large quantity of harvest. Um, it's impossible to know exactly, but talking to the people I know, it's anything from 50 to 100% higher than last year.
Wow.
So, yeah, they're quite bullish about it. And I've spoken to several people about it. So anything from 50 upwards, yeah. So
So put that in
expecting a
perspective.
large crop.
Last year, the Cashew Board tells us the crop was 310,000 tonnes. So 50% up is 465,000 tonnes. That just blows away all records. What about the quality, James? We know Tanzania is known for high quality cashew nuts. Is it too early, or are you seeing any indications on quality?
Yeah, no, we've done a good bit of quality checks in various different areas, and the quality is also good. Now, the quantity, as I said, we have to take it with an estimate, but I do know the quality is good in that we have sampled a lot of different areas for quality, and the quality is good. Yeah, yeah, we're happy with the quality so far.
That's great news. And do you think that's likely to be the long-term trend? How do you see production growing in the coming years? Are we on a positive trend?
Well, as you said a little bit earlier, a lot of trees have been grown, and talking to again some of the guys in the field, they would predict that it will steadily increase. Yeah, that there is enough trees being planted and grown, and that this time next year, if we had the same weather conditions, there would be an increase year on year. The amount or the percentage of year on year, I don't know, but there has enough trees have been planted, and there will be an increase in production here. Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. It's been talked about for a long time. It's good to see it come into reality. There's also, of course, if the trees are planted throughout the country, there's also the prospect that you could get a northern hemisphere crop in one part of the country and a southern hemisphere crop in another part of the country. That would be good news, wouldn't it?
Yeah, anything to lengthen the season for a single origin supplier would be helpful. Yeah, even if you get a month, a couple of weeks at either end of the season, a month and a half, anything that would improve that would be very helpful for single origin suppliers.
So we've seen a lot of changes in the last couple of years, allowing processors to deal with the AMCOs directly. Has that made a difference to you as a processor?
Yeah, last year, it's helpful. It's helpful to get a connection with the AMCOs. It's helpful to get a connection with the areas, so as they're understanding the quality and where you're buying it from. So that is helpful. It's helpful in from a cost perspective to a small degree, but as of yet, we don't know the changes that are being made to go through the unions, as in the AMCOs haven't opened yet. So I can't know how it will turn out, but it's something new, and anytime you change something from the what it's at, I think it'll take a little bit of time to bed in. So yeah, I think it'll take a little bit of work to figure it all out.
Yeah, just to put some context on that for people who may not be aware, but the Cashew Board announced that the payments to farmers will be handled through cooperative unions this year, and that's to me that's a surprising change. The idea is that it would speed up payments from the auction, but I still strongly feel that processors should be allowed dealing in every way directly with AMCOs, because this will ensure a good supply chain organisation and traceability. That's my opinion. Obviously, James is waiting to see how how this develops. But in terms of quality, you've mentioned that the crop looks good. What about your own quality, your kernels? What kind of reaction have you had over the last 18 months or so to the quality of your kernels?
Yeah, we've had a good reaction. For us, the main goal is to try and find customers who want quality and are happy to engage with us for our quality rather than quantity. And we have managed to find a couple of customers who want quality, and they're quite keen to work with us again because of the quality more than anything else. So if you can find the quality markets, and if any other processors here in Tanzania, there are different reasons. The main goal would be to find the quality market, because we're paying a lot higher price for raw cashew nuts here than in West Africa. But if you can find the quality market, you can keep it because the quality is here, regardless of how good or bad we are at processing the cashews. The raw cashew nuts that are produced here in Tanzania are just excellent. So we get rewarded for that, even if it's a higher price.
Yeah, and I certainly have seen some of the reaction to samples of your product. I remember one particular, I was a large roaster, saying, what do we do with this? It's so much better than anything else we're seeing. We're going to have to make a specific product that fits for this quality. The quality was so good. We were talking about color and taste in particular. So interesting times.
Yeah, and the fact that we're able to get to market a lot quicker with our products. So by the time we process and to get to market, it makes that freshness a little bit better for the consumer as well.
And does this, I meant to ask you actually, does the access to AMCOs, does that allow you to put a traceability chain in place?
Oh, it definitely helps with that, yeah. Yeah. Because you're able to, you can bring, yeah, very much so. Yeah. You're buying it from the auctions, it's quite difficult to do that. Whereas you know where you're buying it from. We know the AMCOs and we know the group of farmers, so very helpful.
Okay, this is all working in the right direction in Tanzania. I think we might be seeing a real upturn in the Tanzanian cashew industry, and coastal nuts is part of that. James, you and me, we first talked about cashews in, believe it or not, 2012. It's been a long journey. You've made that journey. I know it's had its ups and downs. So a lot of people are looking at investing, big companies, small companies. What advice would you give to an investor or to a new cashew processor?
Here in Tanzania, and I'll compare it to Uganda, where I've done spent many years working there as well. Rather than, let's say, between here and Europe. Between here and Uganda, there's a lot more paperwork. It's a lot more bureaucratic than my experience in Uganda, and so you have to be aware of that, and you have to be patient about that, because that is what it is to do business here. It's very bureaucratic. But that's a patience thing, and you have to plan accordingly for that, and take the time, because licenses, etc., will take a number of stages. So, but that's planning and patience. The more difficult side of things is access to finance here for trade finance. So that's the one thing I'd say. We had the Minister for Agriculture touring through the factory this week, as your video showed earlier. And when he asked the question of what's the barrier of getting to capacity, because we have a capacity of 12,500 tons, and to get to there is trade finance. We have quality cashews. We have a market. Yes, the RCN price is higher here than in West Africa.